Hey there, in this video I'm going to take you through a 7-minute lower body stretching routine, and then I got some very important information at the end, so make sure you do not miss that. So for the first stretch right here, you're going to stretch out your calves. So have something to elevate the toes, and then you can hang on to the wall there for balance. And the thing I like about this stretch a lot better compared to just trying to touch your toes, here you're tilting your pelvis anteriorly to try to get into more hip flexion rather than rounding your back. So make sure here that you move those hips back and keep a slight arch in the lower back. This next stretch right here will really hit that Abductor Magnus a lot. So you're going to just put your feet up against a wall and let gravity kind of pull those legs to the side and pull them apart. Try to make sure that that butt stays on the ground and does not slide up. And it'll work best if the feet are kind of slippery, so I recommend to do it with socks on, not with shoes on, or not barefoot either. Now this stretch will really hit that adductor brevis and pectinus muscle a lot more, but it also still will hit those other hip adductor muscles too. When performing this stretch, you want to keep those feet against the wall like I'm doing right here, because naturally the legs are just going to want to move together, so the wall will help keep those legs apart. You should feel this on the inside of the hips, and you should feel it a little on the front of the hips too. Now for this stretch right here, the knees will be bent at 90 degrees, and make sure your pants and floor is somewhat slippery so you can move those legs apart. You could also put towels under the knees, and that'll help slide those legs apart, and that would be a good option if you had shorts on. You should feel this stretch in the hip adductors, the inside of the hips. The nice thing about this stretch right here is you'll take less stress off the MCL. For this next stretch right here, you're going to put a towel on the knee behind you and a towel on the foot in front of you. And make sure you're doing this on somewhat of a slippery floor so you can get those legs to move apart and try to get those hips to come down. You should feel this stretch in the front of the hip on the back leg and in the hamstrings on the front leg. It's very important that you have a stool on each side to hang on to, and most importantly that you feel very stable. Then you'll do the other side. So the leg that was in front of you will switch to behind you, and the leg that was behind you will switch to in front of you. And again, you'll feel it in the hip flexors, the front of the hip on the leg that's behind you, and in the hamstrings on the leg that's in front of you. Now kind of use some common sense on how you should set this up best for you. So if you can do the splits, you could probably just hang on to the ground, while someone that's much less flexible than me might need higher stools. Now here we're going to stretch those hip external rotators. So in this example here, you're going to move the knee toward the wall, and you're going to rotate the lumbar spine, so the lower back, away from the knee, so toward my other hand on the ground. You should feel this either deep inside the hip, on the upper side of the hip, or in the biceps femoris short head. So this will really help put that hip in lots of internal rotation. Now you'll do the same thing here on the other side. So take your other knee, move it toward the inside, and rotate the lumbar away from the knee. Now for this next stretch right here, you're going to lay down, move one of your legs up with the knee bent at 90 degrees, and cross that other leg over it, specifically the ankle, like I was doing right there. If it feels more comfortable just to hold the leg in this position right here, you can do that. Just find what feels comfortable for you, and make sure that the knee is pointing out to the side of you and not toward you. Then for the other side, just do the opposite of what you're doing on this side. The other leg goes over. So another thing that this stretch will help you out with is just improving your hip mobility, specifically when it comes to hip external rotation. And then the previous stretch will help you improve your hip mobility, specifically when it comes to hip internal rotation. So for this next stretch right here, you're going to lay on your side, you're going to bend the knee, and then you're going to try to thrust the hips out a little. So you will be hanging on to your ankle to bend the knee. Thrust the hips just means pushing them out in front of you, not having them way behind you. So if they're behind you, the lower back would likely be arched, and the hips would not be in a straight line with the lower back and the legs. The knees would be more in front of you, and the chest would be more in front of you too, and the hips would be behind you. Now, if you do have those hips way behind you but feel it a lot in the quads, then that is all right. It really just depends on how flexible you are, but if you don't feel it in the quads, really try to get those hips out more in front of you. Now this stretch right here specifically going to stretch the rectus femoris mainly, but it'll also stretch the hip flexors and quads too. So what you're going to do here is you're going to get on a knee, move both those hips forward in front of you, and then try to bend the knee for the back leg by holding onto your ankle. And do the best you can to keep your back straight, and make sure you do this by a wall to hang on to. You should feel the stretch in the thigh on the back leg, and mostly the top of the thigh, and then you should also feel in the front of the hip too. Then you'll go ahead and do this on the other side. So you'll move the other leg back, you'll bend that knee, and try to move both those hips forward. Now it's very important to understand that different things will work for different people. If you want to find out what's going to work for you, you need to assess yourself and use those results to help you structure your training program. For more information on that, go ahead and watch that video in the top left corner. I'm also going to be coming out with more workout videos, so make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss out on those videos. Thanks for watching, and I wish the best of luck to each and every one of you at achieving your fitness goals.